Alright, so in this video, we're going to be talking about absolute value. So absolute values bars are something like this. So they look something like this. It's just two vertical bars, and inside of this, we have an expression or a number, something like that, that makes it all positive. Now, why does it make it all positive? What does an absolute value mean, right? Everything has a meaning in math. When you think about the absolute value, think about, for example, say the absolute value of -5, okay? We could choose one of these examples. So actually, let's just do number 3. So problem number 3, let's look at absolute value of -9. Now, although -9 is a negative number, the absolute value makes stuff positive. I told you that before, so this is just going to be 9. However, why? Well, because if you think about what an absolute value means, let me draw a number line here. We start with 0 and we go up till some number. And here it's not going to matter. We want to go till 9 over here, so it's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Those are not evenly spaced, but that's -9, and this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? Positive 6. Now, the distance, the point that we have here is -9, so that's this point right here. What an absolute value does is it measures the distance from 0 to -9. So this distance right here. Distance can never be negative. It has to be positive. So this is just going to be +9. So think about the absolute value like that. The distance from 0 to the number that you're looking at. Now that works for this case. So that's how you must think about absolute values. If you have a positive number, for example, 5, absolute value of 5, then you just have 5 right here and 0 right here. So the distance from here to here is just +5. And so it just basically it's making stuff positive because we're looking at a distance. So you can think about it like that. But that's essentially what an absolute value is, if you're curious. And if we have variables as well, like -x, for example, everything's going to become positive, so it's just going to become +x, and so on and so forth. But we're gonna worry about that later. Let's look at these questions here. So let's look at number 4. We already solved number 3. It's right here. So if we have a negative absolute value of 15, we have to first look at the absolute value sign, and it says absolute value of 15, and then we're adding on a negative. So 15 absolute value, it's positive. It's going to stay positive. The distance from 0 is still going to be 15, so it's just going to be 15, and then we add on a negative. So it's actually just -15. This is 9. Okay, so then if we look at number 5, we have 14, absolute value of 14, minus -14. So let's deal with this one. So we have 14, absolute value of 14 is just 14, and then minus the absolute value of -14 is +14, and we can write it like that if we wanted to, and this is always just going to be 0. So that's our answer for this one. You might think that here, if you ignore the absolute value, if you ignore the absolute value, it would become 14 minus -14, which is basically 28, right? 14 plus 14. And that would be a mistake because you have these absolute value symbols making stuff positive, okay? So that's something you ought to know. Okay, let's look at let's look at number 6. We have the absolute value of -3 plus +3, plus the absolute value of +3. -3 absolute value is just 3 plus 3, which is equal to 3 plus 3 is 6. 4, 5, 6. Let's look at number 7 and then number 8. So number 7 is negative, so this one's a little bit more involved. -5 times -7, so it's all in absolute value, like that. Remember that the -7 is not inside an absolute value. This is a parentheses, set of parentheses here. So -5 times -7, what is that going to be? Well, that's just +35. So we don't really need the absolute values because it's just going to be positive, and then we add that negative, so it's -35. Okay, let's do the last one. Let's do number 8 here. So we have the absolute value of -0.8 times 10. What is the absolute value of, or what is -0.8 times 10? Well, that's going to be -8. Absolute value is just +8, right? Because -0.8 times 10 is going to be moving this 0 over here. It's going to be -8, which is absolute value 8. Okay, those are the first. Those are 3 to 8, and in the next video, I'm going to be dealing with equations and how do you deal with equations that have the absolute values in them. So it's going to be interesting.